All right, welcome to another episode of End Hype Live. I've got my boy here, Gary Roberts. He's going to walk us through all the fun of a really hot business, a really hot niche that everybody is they're pinging me about, asking me about. And this is a great example of the thing that I always end with is if you have a question, if you want to know more about something, a type of business, you want to dive in, and if I can answer that question and it'll take your business, your life to that next level, I'm going to reach out into my network and I'm going to bring them on and hype, and we're going to chop it up. We're going to have a conversation because I don't know anything about CBD. I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I probably know more about being a firefighter than CBD, and I don't know anything about being a firefighter. So I cannot wait to share this guy's knowledge with you about building a brand in this industry. Before we jump in, I just want to give you a quick call to action, right? This is our fee. When you hear that gem, when Gary shares that piece of information, when I say something dumb and it makes you laugh, just remember, share this out with a friend. Share the podcast, share the YouTube video, pop it on your feed, right? That's how we grow. We grow organically here. End Hype isn't just a show, it's a movement about doing something, about building businesses and helping each other. Let's do it. And that's enough for me. Let's get into the show. Gary, so pumped to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's the story, Gary?
Callie, awesome to be on your show. So glad you invited me. Whew, where should I start? My CBD realm. Well, I'm going to start with my little backstory and how I got involved with it. 15-year veteran firefighter. I was actually doing a CrossFit games, trying to become a CrossFit Masters athlete. And so what I decided to do was I tried to figure out how to recover better. We're always looking to recover better. Us athletes and fitness people always looking to recover better. So I started learning a little bit about CBD on how its benefits happen. So what I did is instead of buying products, because it was still illegal when I was getting it, I looked at it. So it was about 2.5, 3 years ago. It was still illegal on the East Coast while it was legal on the West Coast. I started investigating the endocannabinoid system. So how CBD interacts with your system, because it's a system nobody knows about. Even some doctors don't know about it. There's only a few doctors that want to learn about it. And that's where you get disparities between doctors and cannabis doctors, because some want to learn about it and some don't. So I went way back and watched a bunch of YouTubes from the master himself, Mr. Machulam himself. And I was blown away. I mean, this basically they said, most people take supplements, think the supplement does something for them. You know, it's supplemental. So you miss a meal, I'm going to supplement with a protein shake. Well, CBD actually is like a key into a car. It actually starts your body to heal itself so it can actually work better. So that just blew my mind. And from there on, I'm one of those guys that researches the crap out of everything. I'm like, I got to figure this stuff out. So I just started researching, and that's what it came up to. It came up to basically as we get older, our body kind of tilts. In other words, we get out of basically off level. The other word, I kind of lost my mind there. Off level, and CBD brings you back down to a level called a homeostatic state. So at your homeostatic state is when you were born. You were born, no toxicities in your body. You didn't take anything. So you were born at a homeostatic state. Everything was firing perfectly. But as you got older, you started taking Tylenol, or you had a medication you take, and that would actually throw your body completely out of kilter.
Wow.
Well, CBD puts it back to where you were when you were young. It won't reverse the age. So if anybody pumps in and says, okay, I'm going to take it, and your birthday start going downhill, like one of my guys at the fire station says, he's no longer turning 50. He's going from 50 down back to 1, like Benjamin Button. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. But I started investigating all these properties, and I realized that it does a lot more than just recover your body. It helps addiction. And as I was going through that, I found out my daughter was addicted to opiates. And so I'm like, okay, so now I got into more medical stuff like that. So my personal goal turned into something, let me help my daughter goal. And so I decided, well, I needed to figure out how to get a brand out or figure out how to do this, because it's not legal here. How am I going to get this stuff here? So I had to try all these brands from the West Coast. They would all come in a weird little package because, it was illegal. Interstate commerce wasn't as it is now because it was illegal. So you would get something saying, I don't know, perfume or olive oil or skin cream, and it was actually CBD oil. So
That's funny.
I ended up trying that stuff, and of course, none of it worked. It all tasted like crap. And to be honest, I don't recommend anything that tastes bad. The same thing with my fitness products. If it tastes bad, you're not going to take it. So I thought it was all BS. It ain't working. And I go for my blood work one day, and one of the ladies there says, "Hey, listen, I'm going to a cannabis conference. Why don't you come and check it out?" I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? I tried a bunch of it. I don't think it works." She goes, "Just come and check." So I went there, talked to a couple of vendors, and there was a vendor out in Colorado says, "No, you got to try. This is what we do. We're FDA registered. We're licensed. We're organic." I'm like, okay, so these guys sound legit. Let's give it a whirl. At the time, I was going through patellar tendonitis in both feet, which it was basically like walking on glass. And as a firefighter, walking on glass in big firefighting boots with 80 pounds of gear on you, it's not very comfortable. It's extremely painful. So I'm like, anything to get rid of this stuff. So when I ordered it, I took it for the first time, and I was sitting there in my kitchen, and I went, "Hey, my Achilles don't feel like, my pain went from an 8 to a 3. My wife's like, "It's just a placebo. You just bought junk again. It's just not going to work." I'm like, "No, I think we got something here. This might be the company we've been looking for, not only to help me, but since it worked on me, it's going to help my daughter." So that's how we got into the CBD industry. And before it came legal here and I could actually get the product, what I wanted out here, and my daughter ended up passing away. So that's how I decided, you know what, let's start forgetting about me and my injuries. Let's start worrying about other people and see if we can bring a product to market that needs to be to market. And the biggest thing about CBD is, when I started, it was the wild, wild west. Basically, it's like every gas station, every mom and pa had it. Everybody wanted to ride the CBD train. Everybody saw it's a multi-billion-dollar company, so everybody came in. Multi-level marketing companies jumped in, and all they were doing was turning over product to try and make a profit, and they weren't creating a product for it that was good. So my number one goal was, I want something that I can create that's actually pure. It can be tested properly, and that I can actually give to fellow firefighters and see how they like it, because we get drug tested. Mm-hmm. And the last thing I want to do is ruin somebody's career by having them actually go get drug tested and then pop a THC test. Yep. So that was the biggest thing. So if anybody's going to actually start a CBD company, they'd really have to research what niche they have. Don't go after everything CBD can do. That's the key. CBD can do so many things. You're not going to create a market for everybody. Think of it like nutritional market. It's a massive multi-billion-dollar company. A lot of people just stay with protein. Some people just stay with more amino acids. Some people stay with fat burners. They stay with a certain niche. You need to do that with the CBD company. And that's what I decided. I decided I'm going to do with the helping firefighters come out of depression, and helping addiction. And so that's what I stay there. And to do that, I had to make a quality product that was continuously tested. So I had to find a proper testing company. Well, lo and behold, that I find out that these testing companies could, again, wild, wild west, can actually get paid to put whatever they want on their tests. And I'm like, I called this one company. I'm like, "How do I get my stuff tested?" He goes, "Okay, well, what do you want your test to say?" "What's in the bottle?" He goes, No. What do you really want it to say so you can sell it?" I'm like, No. I want to know what's in the bottle. That's what I want. I don't want to fake it. I need to know what's in the bottle. That's what I need to know. And it blew my mind. And the whole industry, when I started, was like that.
It's a good lesson there for sure. So there's lots of third-party testing being done and brands being shot down left and right. I do know that in this market, because there's been multiple magazine and newspaper and like YouTube, pieces of content that have come out where, hey, we've tested these 10 and 8 of them contain nothing, right? Or they contained almost nothing, or this one contained THC and it's supposed to be no THC. And this one is supposed to be full spectrum and it has nothing. And exactly. So we talk about brand all the time on the show, and a brand is what someone else tells somebody else about your business, right? And if you're trying to, you're going after high value niches, which is incredible because it's a way to differentiate yourself from the gas station CBD, from hell, I go to Lifetime. They have huge banners everywhere for CBD. I don't know if it has anything in it or not, but it's like, it's so common. How do you create that brand where they know, okay, Gary is my guy, right? He's the guy, he's the reputable person. His product is the best. It's the one that I trust. Yeah.
That how I did it was basically, I found a testing facility. I went through a bunch of them. I found a testing facility that actually the DEA uses to test products to make sure that they're legal throughout the United States. That was the first thing. It costs more. It'll be passed down to the consumer, but that is actually shows the proof that I care about what's in my product. So basically we'll get the farm will send us a product. It'll say, here's what's in it. I'll look at it. I'll send my batch out to be tested to confirm that product, what I have, what was sent, confirms what the farm said was said. And then do a lot of other testing, which most companies didn't do. A lot of companies in the beginning, and this is where they're getting away with it, was actually checking just potency, basically just how much THC was in it. They weren't testing for biological stuff. They weren't testing for heavy metals. They weren't testing for, items like that. So you never knew what you were getting, because depending on how your CBD was made, you might be getting solvents or heavy metals in that bottle, but they would never tell you. They just told you this is how much CBD was in there. So I ended up paying thousands of dollars in the beginning to have the full panel tested to make sure none of that was in there. We wouldn't get stuck with anything. So if you want that quality product, go the extra mile and then keep that standard up. It may cost the consumer a little bit more, but in the long run, you're always guaranteed that you're giving them a quality product.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, yeah, I mean, you're wearing a First Form shirt right now, and like that's kind of where they're positioning themselves. So there's extra testing, high quality ingredients, and the products just end up costing a little bit more. You go to Walmart and you get protein powder much cheaper, but it's garbage, right? So it's like,
exactly,
what are you gonna do, right? I definitely, I respect that, because we live more than ever in a word of mouth world, especially if people that are listening to this understand how saturated certain markets are and how aggressive and competitive the whole cannabis industry is right now and is about to become. You're only as good as your name, right? And if you're thinking about starting something, listen to what Gary just said, because he's like literally telling you that is the blueprint, right? Build your house on a foundation of rock, not on sand, right?
Exactly.
No, that's awesome.
So that's the number one key that I would say anybody was going to start out in any business. Build that foundation, like you said, and you'd always have something to fall back on, which says, okay, well, I started it properly. And so we spent thousands of dollars building that foundation, even before we sold the product, which might have not been smart, because as I went along, again, CBD just became legal when I was doing it. Well, federally, it was still illegal. So every time I opened a bank account, I got shut down. And I opened a credit card company, got shut down. I used to get people calling me, hey, listen, we're from Discover, or we just found out you're selling CBD products. Yeah, you can't use us anymore. Okay, next.
No Shopify. You have to have special merchant processing. Yep.
Exactly. So I had like 3 merchant processors going at the same time, because I always had a backup. Because I was just waiting for one to get shut down. I would just switch it. When to shut down, just switch it. It's the only way I could actually plan on doing it. And the first one I had, they cost me, I think it was about $10,000 up front, and they would take half my sales for the first 6 months, and then they would repay me slowly over the next 6 months.
Wow.
So this is the industry that where I decided that I needed to help people. So that wasn't going to deter me. I wasn't going to do it anyways, because I could see the benefit. Mm-hmm. And speaking of the benefit, I gave it to one of my first firefighters who had some neck problems. I said, here, try this CBD and just let me know what happens. And 3 days later, he called me up and goes, dude, what's in this stuff? And I'm like, uh-oh, what, did you just pop a drug test that I don't know about? I'm like, what happened? Panicking. And he goes, well, I'm just letting you know that I had voices in my head. I wasn't happy. I just got a divorce. I didn't like my kids. I didn't know what I was going to do next. I was in a dark place. After 3 days of being on your product, my whole mind cleared up. I'm enjoying life again. I can see better clearly. The voices have quieted. They're not bothering me. And then the light bulb went on and went, yeah, this is the path that we have to continue going. So no matter how much it costs, if you have that passion for actually doing what you're doing, just keep doing it. In the long run, it's going to pay off. Even though in the short run, you think it's costing you a lot, the long run is going to be paid off a lot more, because that's where you said that word of mouth thing of your product does what it says it does comes in handy.
That's amazing. Yeah. And this goes, it's counterintuitive to a lot of people. This is a question that I get all the time. Like, what's the hot niche? What's the best product that I should start in 2021? Or what's the best product that I should develop to make money? And I'm like, you should build a product that serves people that you really like. And you should connect what you want out of life, right, with what you're going to give other people. And then you should just build products that facilitate whatever that is. And the long term of that is like, because the world's filled with opportunities, right? You can find success everywhere, but if they're always looking for some kind of hack, like, what's the thing I should sell on Amazon tomorrow? I'm like, but then if it works or doesn't, you're not doing something you actually care about, right? Whereas if you put that effort into what you're saying and you connect it to that bigger purpose, like, all that effort is at least towards that purpose. And the probability of success is so much higher, and in the long term is astronomically higher. How do you build a business versus just like make money? Like, if I think that you're right there. You're right there. That's what I want people to listen to, is they're pinging me saying, hey, how do you start a CBD brand? I hear that's going to be the big cash cow in 2021. And it's like, sure, it's a really hot competitive market, but if you're tying it to beating opioid addiction or helping firefighters, a giant mission of service, it doesn't just have to be about CBD oil. It's about the service. And if you came out with another product tomorrow, a new product that also served that mission that you believe in 100%, people believe in you, Gary, right? So they would be like, oh, okay, I'll give it a try,
Exactly.
Yeah. So I love it, dude.
So yeah, so that's what we did. And we found out the hard way that the CBD industry is not as easy as everybody thinks. It's a cash cow when you're able to actually get the cow in front so people can see it. Listen, the CBD market, nobody on Facebook or Instagram, they're not letting you show anything. So as soon as you try to do anything, my IPs for Facebook and Instagram have been burnt. I can't advertise at all my market. So how could that be a business? Well, I built that word of mouth of creating a superior product, so everybody now searches me out. So even if I'm not on there, people just point, go see Gary. Gary tell you, go see, go to him. And it's not only the product. I would tell everybody that's listening, educate yourself on your product. Learn everything it does and everything about it. Just don't grab a product because you think it's going to be a cash cow and say, hey, yeah, I can buy it from here and sell it to here. It's doing awesome. Learn about it, because once you learn about it, it's so much easier to ask questions. And when you educate people on your products, it's so much easier to sell. I mean, I hate using the word sell because I'm actually helping them out, because I've learned what the product does. I've seen what it does. I've felt what it does. Then therefore I can explain it better to people. So definitely learn your products before you just go out and start selling stuff. And there's a whole world of people you can reach with education. Educate first, then provide the product. Sooner or later, it'll come back to you.
No, that's a great framework. Definitely something that we've gotten into in the past is you can sell as in pushing things, or you can educate and the market will pull. And then you just become a provider, a service provider. Right, they're asking you for something, and for people that aren't traditionally salespeople, if this it makes it make more sense, right? You're just like, it's in the service. You're educating people. You're demonstrating quality, and then eventually, it's a slower path to go down, but eventually that snowballs. And that is cumulative, whereas sales are like ads, like you're saying. If you could run Facebook ads, as soon as you turn those ads off, the revenue shuts off, right? Word of mouth doesn't work like that.
Exactly. And then you got to remember the whole thing about sales, especially on Facebook and Instagram. It's a lot easier to do a high ticket sales there because if you get one person, your ROI is returned. When you're trying to sell a $100 product and you got to spend $5,000 to get in front of people, you need to sell a lot of $100 products to recoup that ROI. So in the long run, it may not be the best way to go, to be honest. So you got to actually think of your avenues that you're actually going. But if you get on Facebook to educate people, well, now you become a source. Now that source, people ask questions. When people ask questions, they start thinking. And the more they think and ask questions, the more think of you. And then when they start thinking of you, then they end up contacting you. So being a resource instead of a sales source is a lot easier, than, especially in the CBD industry. So I don't know about the other industries, but the CBD industry, being a resource has been a lot easier than just going out and selling.
Do you find that your niche as a firefighter allows you to network a little bit easier inside that market and go from, say, station to station, and be able to sell that as a solution? Or you find that is that a help or a hindrance to you?
Mentally, in the beginning, was a hindrance because, again, you're having a firefighter in the beginning selling a semi-legal, not federally legal product. Am I going to get fired, or am I going to get drug tested, or how is that going to work for me? So in the beginning, I was really more or less a lot word of mouth. Shh, don't tell anybody, hey, try this, because I was afraid for myself, to be honest with you.
Right.
But now I'm putting myself out there. I'm trying to change certain protocols in a certain way that people see it for sort of advocacy, so that firefighters and first responders can get access to cannabis and CBD, because I've seen so much of what it's done. And I've seen the other products like chemicals and in the pharmaceuticals can do. So the difference with a plant and pharmaceuticals are 100%, 10% difference. So I've put myself out there. Probably 2019, I made that decision. I said, okay, we need to stop hiding it and start bringing it in the front. But again, I taught most of the firefighters educated them on what it is. A lot of people don't know about CBD. You'd be surprised. It's the talk of a lot of people who want to sell and get into niche systems, but there are a lot of people that have absolutely no clue. When I reached out to my health and safety committee and asked them, hey, listen, I'd like to make a presentation to you guys, they said, we know absolutely nothing about this. And it's like, it just blew my mind. It's like, okay, what do you mean? You know nothing? It's kind of like when you see fire trucks, and you every once in a while, guys like us, we notice all the fire trucks, but half the people don't.
Yeah.
So when you're a firefighter, you notice all the fire trucks. So when you're in the CBD industry, you notice everything CBD, but it's kind of like with any industry. But I was surprised at how many people knew nothing about it, or just would buy the stuff on Amazon thinking it was the same thing that we were selling. And, well, look, I can get it for $20. Why are you selling it for $100? Well, you might want to go to my podcast and check the Amazon article on that one, because I'll tell you exactly what they're selling on Amazon, and it ain't CBD oil. That's for sure. Yeah.
I mean, the nutraceutical market is kind of like that too. Is like, there's a group of people that they buy fish oil and they'll just buy whatever at the grocery store. And then there's another group of people that are like buying things and having them tested randomly. And then, they're buying the same product for 3 times as much, because it's like, it's pure and it hasn't turned, and it's like made from this type of fish, and, it has no additives. And so it's like that I find really interesting about supplements in general. Any of the nutraceutical products in the market is like, there's such a wide array of education in the space. And I think CBD is kind of getting there, where everybody's probably heard somebody say it. They've heard it mentioned on Joe Rogan podcast. They've heard it in a commercial on another podcast, or they've seen that banner at Lifetime Fitness. But and then there's probably a swath of people that have tried it, or tried something, like maybe yourself before. They bought something on Amazon. They were like, yeah. But I think the education portion of that market is so small, because I don't see much education happening right now. It's more kind of like, hey, did you know that you can like rub this on your elbow? And it's like, I don't know that. Like, I guess, but like, why? Why does this work? And you can see the more mature markets, like it's almost gone to the other side, where they're like over-educate and have ridiculous claims about like, this has black pepper extract, which does all these things. I'm like, does it really? Like, I don't know about that. But
right.
But people are hyper focused in the supplement, in that like bodybuilding supplement, on like everything, whereas the normal person is just, I don't know. I find that whole spectrum interesting. But you're also a CrossFit athlete, and so for everybody that's listening, you're not just like a guy that has gone to CrossFit. Like, you've done competitions. I saw some of your lifts are, they're nothing to sneeze at. So I can understand having some aches and pains for that, and where you're coming from in that market. Because
it's not bad for a 50-year-old.
Hey, I'm 40. I wish I could lift like that. So maybe I'll be you when I grow up.
there you go. You'll come up. I'll go down like my buddy's going down. We'll meet halfway.
There you go. Oh man, no, that's so good. That's so good. Well, what do you project like happening in that market as things open up? Like, what do you see for your business happening?
Oh, that's like a loaded question on that one.
Yeah, man.
There's so many changes going on. Right before the administration changed, I'm going to talk about overall nationally, and I'll talk about Florida in a minute. They were actually going to actually put a bill in to make CBD itself a dietary supplement, because the FDA has actually found out, they've quantified all the claims, and they agree with them on how the benefits for pain relief and stuff like that. They've actually researched it. They actually sent out a bunch of emails out saying, hey, give us all your claims, give us all this, and we'll do research on it. So they've built a database of all these stuff. And I think, don't quote me on this, and if the FDA is listening, I apologize if I screw this up. I think they quantified that it's a anti-inflammatory, pain relief, and there's a third one that is. There's three things that they said it quantifies for being a dietary supplement. So that they saw that it proved it. Yeah, it does do those things. So they were pushing to actually get that into the government. Administration change, they had to pull it back out. Now I heard it went back in, but yeah, they're hoping to change it from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 drug, at least hemp, not cannabis, hemp CBD, which is 0.3% or less, so that it could actually be sold more readily and more available. On the Florida side, our agriculture, Nikki Fry, is very heavily interested in actually keeping the CBD market where it is and pushing it even more through Florida, because she sees the benefit for the farmers and the benefit that it does do for the patients and people like us. So she's on board with making sure that hemp CBD is here to stay. And it actually helps all around, actually making some new things. I think this year they put in for recreational cannabis and CBD to actually be available throughout Florida. So we're going to see where that goes. But again,
you think that's going to push it through FDA for regulations, and then people like you will be doing better? Or you think that it's just going to circumvent any kind of, like, a lot of supplements like don't actually go to FDA, right? So
I think it'll help those people, in my case, like me and others that I've talked about there in the industry, that want the regulation, that we want to prove that the plant does what it says. We want to actually make it a providable service or product for the people, for it to work, because it works. All those that know that it works, the big guys in the company that know that it works, wants to see more regulation, because we want to remove the people that are just in it for the dollar. Those of are in it for the benefits and making people better are in it to change the industry themselves, which is it's a tight group, but it takes a little harder work with us, because every once in a while you get that garage guy come in, or that local corner store guy come in and screw everything up. Now you have to restart educating everybody again and going, okay, no, that's not how it works. That's not it. Start all over.
CBD.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so we feel more regulation is actually better, but the right type of regulation.
Sure. Yeah,
don't say yes and then tie our hands going, oh yeah, you can't do that and you can't do this and you can't. Look, well, that's not what we want. We want to make sure that what we provide is better, because you'll see a lot of the people. I was in a room on Clubhouse the other day. They were saying, out in Colorado, they were going around. The fire departments were going around and they were saying, oh, you can't do this, because what ends up happening is all these indoor grow farms are blowing up. Well, yeah, the guy that's at his house trying to grow 80 plants with duct tape and some electrical wire and all these lamps, of course he's going to blow himself up. But the guys that are regulating themselves, the big corporations, how many of those blow up?
Right. They have a
None.
legit greenhouse and like the whole real setup. And
Yeah, none,
yeah,
zero. So let the guys that want to do it right, and kind of regulate the guys that are trying to blow themselves up in their own houses. Let them grow that one plant, but don't let them do more than that. Let them get in trouble. Leave us alone to actually make the industry flourish.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I feel the same way about a lot of things. Is like people make claims, and for a lot of hot markets or things, there's also a lot of like digital low barrier to entry industries where I'm like, man, there's just an infinite amount of people trying to come in and finding that point of differentiation. And then as as things change or they become more difficult, it's like, yeah, you want to create some kind of separation, right? So I'm coming from a manufacturing background, and you can like, there's lots of people that they say they do what I do, but you can like just come to my facility and I'm like, you can't like fake having equipment, right?
Exactly.
So they're like, yeah, I make stuff, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, and then you walk through, and there's a huge facility with millions of dollars for the equipment. It's like they're like, oh yeah, I meant like I make stuff in my garage. Like yeah, okay, but like that's cool too, right? But it's not the same thing, and I feel like that is the way in a lot of like digital marketing, copywriting, like fashion, beauty, and now CBD. It's like there's a lot of people coming in, and they're just saying like that they do it, but what they really mean is that they're interested in getting started, which is amazing too. But it's like, are they actually following those trends? Are they playing by the rules? And you gotta look down the road, because what you're doing, laying that brand story and that message, like that's going to serve you no matter what you do. It's at least going to make it so you can sleep at night, because you're going to really be connected with what you do, right? But yeah, at the end of the day, something like that, that's what I think is going to happen, is that FDA is going to step in, or there'll be some kind of regulatory piece that steps in and says, okay, cowboys, like let's at least make this the same as just pick on protein powder, right? At least like let's at least regulate it as much as we regulate like fitness supplements, which is barely at all, right? But it would put a lot of the fake stuff out of the market, I guess.
Well, that's what they did in Florida. That's what I love, Florida, Nikki Fry. And then they came in here and said, okay, we're going to get the FDA give us, the USDA give us approval. We're going to make a hemp program. Here's what we're going to happen. Starting at this date, anybody who wants to sell CBD has to have a facility and has to get licensed and inspected, period. Well, that just wiped out every single garage seller, mom, pa that was selling from the multi-level marketing out of their basement. Every garage that didn't have a license, didn't want to pay for that license, because they need to get inspected and prove where that stuff is coming from, proving that it's actually the quality that Florida wanted. So like my stuff from Colorado has to be the quality Florida wants.
Yep.
Otherwise they won't accept it. And then I got to get it inspected. Then I got to go through a third party. Then I got to inspect my labels. Then I got to inspect my facility. Then I got to show where I'm having it. And all of these things wiped out a bunch of people in Florida. I mean, we were going to sell to one nutritional place, and right before we did it, they never got all their CBD confiscated because they never paid for a license to sell.
Oh, wow.
So they wiped out a huge amount of people in here, which is great for me, because then they said, okay, you're good to go. I'm like, all right, well, I'll just take over everybody else is leaving off. I'm here, guys. I'm good to go. So let's make it work. But regulations like that save our industry. That's the key. That's what we want. We don't want the guys, like you said, just pulling crap off of Amazon, buying 64 gallons of olive oil, putting it in 1 ounce bottles and selling that for $20, saying it's CBD oil. It just don't work. But that's what they're doing on Amazon. They're making false claims up the wazoo. You just the article I wrote the other day, I looked up on Amazon, they were selling 10 million milligrams of CBD oil. 10 million milligrams. What are you kidding me? That's 3/4 of a farm. It's in one little bottle. Come on. But people will buy it. They said more. Everybody thinks more is better.
More is better.
It's not. Consistency is better. Working out more is not always better, because you'll come to overworking out. If you're consistent, then you're better. Wow. So that was the key. So I love the fact that Florida is actually leading the way with all that.
Yeah, I think that's great, because if if there's credible people in the market that are making credible, normal claims. So I look at this like something that you had said earlier about keeping your mind clear. And we're talking to these people out here, that want to start a business. They're either thinking about, maybe they're thinking CBD oil, but maybe they're thinking about starting a t-shirt or making a technical product or doing a Kickstarter or whatever they're thinking about, right? I want them to understand, you need to look at that whole market. You need to look at like everything that's going on and understand that, at least in the US, one of your biggest partners is the US government, right? Like they control interstate commerce. Like that's the whole point of having the federal government. But your state and local government, like they have regulations around a lot of things, and that can serve to your benefit. I speak for the county and the state and run programs with them for manufacturing and entrepreneurship, and we enjoy a good relationship. But a lot of people, it can be very problematic. So it's like those people, you got to figure it out. But
exactly.
yeah,
And I'm starting to do that now. I'm starting to work, like I said, I'm starting to work with a couple of programs out here to change the regulations out here for CBD and cannabis for first responders. There's going to be some red tape, but you just got to go educate the people that are uneducated in the city and in the city councils and everywhere like that, and slowly make those educated moves. You're actually playing chess. You're making an educated move so that later on down the road you can move that piece that you want to move to actually benefit you. Nice.
I want to flip this for a second, because I know that you're into lifting, you're into working out. We share that, and when people say like, how do I get focus, right? How do I succeed as an entrepreneur, or how do I improve my mood? One of the first things I ask them is if they exercise. So instead of the CBD improving your lifting, how has exercise served you? I'm sure it served you as a firefighter, right? Because it's kind of table stakes. You've got to be able to lift that pack and lift people and stuff. But how's it served you as an entrepreneur?
Oh, that's easy. And this is where I have the big argument with people who actually CrossFit and don't CrossFit, and are like, oh, CrossFit's too dangerous. Like, the only thing that CrossFit actually really taught us, and this is where it helps you with entrepreneurial stuff, is that you have a task and you have to complete that task. So whether you go hard, fast, you got to complete a task. So it always teaches you that no matter where you are, you could always be better, but there's always an end line. And once you finish that task, you can make it harder to make the same task just as more challenging. So by challenging you continuously, it actually builds that. They always talk about mental toughness. Nice. Well, during several competitions, you always have that. We call it either the brain's going to quit or the body's going to quit. Which one's going to quit first? Well, the brain controls everything. So you have to train your brain to not let the body quit first, because the body will always tell the brain, I'm done. I need a break. I'm done. So you always got to overcome that body saying, stop, 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 and say, no, I can do this. I can do this. So all you do is take those large challenges and make them into small wins. So like if you're lifting 200 pounds 30 times, it's not 30 times. It's one time, every time, until you get to 30. And every time you lift it, it's a win. And the more you think of that small win, the more powerful, the more energetic you become. If you think about how far you got to go, you're going to want to quit. Just say, just one more time. One more time. That's all I got to do. Just do it. And so it's taught me that no matter how far the goal I want to get, walk it back a bit, and just let's start with that one thing. All right, I got a bunch of articles or stuff to do for my CBD. Let's just do one. All right, I feel great. Let's do another one. All right, I have an idea. Do another one. And you'll start seeing those small wins turn into major wins. And that's what fitness taught me, basically. It's so amazing how the correlation between exercise, fitness, and the business world is. Oh, yeah. It's basically a parallel path. Yep. Because business, you're going to have the same thing. You're going to have those long goals. And I wrote an article I'm going to come back. I wrote an article the other day. It's called a weightlifting article. Basically, the weightlifters for the United States, like weightlifting or anybody who does weightlifting, there's there's a date that there's this competition. And so from that date on, you work 12 weeks back. And then you got a mesocycle, a microcycle, and a mesocycle, which basically is a whole 12-week plan broken down into a month-to-month plan, broken down into a daily plan. And all you got to work is that daily plan on a month-to-month basis. And next thing you know, you are prepared to be at 100% on that day. And that's all it is. Take your business goals, see how far it wants to get, break it down. What can you do today to make tomorrow different, to progress further the next day? That is it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's actually one of the, it's one of the priming questions that I ask to coaching clients is, what can you do tomorrow to move you towards your goals? Because people they create giant goals and they create them as obstacles, right? So you think of like, instead of a mountain that they're going to climb, they've created a boulder in their path, right? And I'm like, oh, just set that a little bit farther down and let's reverse engineer. What does success look like, right? How many people would be on your team? Like, how many partners would you need? Like, do you need a retailer or a distributor? Like, what would that look like? And half the time people already know what all those answers are, but then you just start backpedaling it and say like, okay, well, this is what we're going to work on, this 30, 60, 90 day world. And then let's see where we are in 90 days. And you, all of a sudden you've achieved your yearly goal in 90 days because you actually did something, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You actually had a plan and it actually came through and like, oh, it's a lot easier than I could think of.
Who would have figured, But no, like I totally agree. I hadn't thought of it the way that you thought of it though. Is just that one. Because I think of it as just doing things that you don't always want to do. Sometimes you go into the gym and you're like, yes, I'm here. I'm going to have a ton of fun. This is what I want to do. But it can't always be like that. And work can't always be like that too. So trying to be realistic with people and doing it when you don't want to do it, that's kind of the opportunity, right? If you just did everything you wanted to do, like everybody would have 6-pack abs and be a millionaire, right?
Well, that's what I coach people in CrossFit and I tell them, okay, so how many pull-ups can you do? Oh, I can only do 10. I says, can you do 1? He goes, yeah, I just told you can do 10. I says, then you can do 100. Just do 1 at a time. That's it. Damn. That's all it is. So if you have that mentality of just that little bit, it'll change everything in the long run.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, Gary, where is the best place for people to follow you?
They can follow me on Instagram at Good Dudes Grow, which is the name of my podcast, which they can also find on iTunes and all the other podcast platforms. Also Gary Roberts and on Facebook, or if you want to look into our products and have any questions about our products, you can go www.pbzcbd.com.
Give yourself a little plug for this podcast, because you've had some really killer guests on it, and I think people should check it out. So like, who's a recent guest that really stands out that everybody should be like, oh my God, and then listen to the show?
I've got 2. One's a celebrity, Tommy Chong from Cheech and Chong the Duo. Very intelligent, very person. The persona that he plays and the person he is completely different. I'm telling you, he's a great guy. So he's the average individual, great to talk to. And one of the big ones that I find is a good friend of mine now is actually RB Barrasso, the owner and co-founder of Green Road CBD. Very nice guy. We talk all the time. Very helpful. He had a rough beginning when he got arrested, and then built this massive empire now, which is one of the biggest CBD companies out there. So those 2 people are actually very, very good.
Gary, I appreciate it. I'm going to ask the audience my final question, and that is, if you have one obstacle, or if you have one question that, if solved, would take you to the next level, DM me, message me. If it has to do with CBD, message Gary, right? If it has to do with starting or growing your business, message me, right? If I can't answer it, I'm going to bring on an expert just like Gary, and we're going to chop it up, and they'll tell you the insider secrets. And that's what End Hype is all about, right? No fluff, no filter, real answers built from people that have actually done it, are doing it to you. So that's my only ask, and I'm going to close it out. Gary, thank you again. My name's Callie Keene. This was End Hype. I'll see you next time.